Hello, and welcome to Chapter 9 of Producing Animation. This chapter is entitled Production. So looking into production, we'll begin on page 229, the role of the producer during the production phase. A producer's multitasking skills are truly tested. A producer is the glue that holds everything together. Work many hours with many responsibilities. The producer must be on top of many steps, including budgetary, creative, technical, and external needs, for example, marketing and consumer products. The role of the producer during the production phase. A list of elements that should be completed in pre-production integral to starting the production phase include character and prop designs, also known as model sheets, environmental and location designs, finalized art direction, final assets with completed test animation, computer graphics, textured and surfaced environments, again, if it's a computer graphic project. Look development. What does the look of the piece look like? Color-styled, symbolized, and rigged asset library, digital 2D obviously. Voice track, storyboards, pre-visualization reel or computer graphics, or story reel or an animatic. Timing information, exposure sheets. In a TV series or lower budget projects, all these elements are considered locked at the start of production. In feature work, all items marked with an asterisk are considered works in progress, evolving as the project evolves. Principal requirements. Having created a workable budget, running a production has these principal requirements: production-ready script, established visual development, established animation style. Production pipeline should be prepared and tested. Recruited and prepared team in place. A balanced aesthetic goals and meeting weekly quotas. An ample inventory is the key to a steady workflow. Once production elements are completed, and TV/direct-to-TV projects are usually outsourced. Once the project goes into production, producer relies on associate producer and production manager to handle the day-to-day details like facilitating the workflow, managing the inventory, tracking shots, and meeting quotas. On page 230, feature producers' areas of concentration. This is if you're producing a feature film. Story development, production design and art direction, voice talent and recording, music, budget and schedule adherence, overall status of production, buyer executive notes and communication, ancillary and marketing groups. A feature producer's job is divided between the internal realm of production itself and external factors that facilitate the project's success once it is released. Frequently, the areas overlap. For example, celebrity voice needed as a production element and as a promotional tool. Generally, producer attends key production meetings such as brain trusts, turnovers, where a sequence is handed out, are sweatbox sessions. Page 231, day-to-day basis producer responsibilities. Oversees progression of slow creatively and physically, interfaces with ancillary groups, and you set up ways to promote and market the project in preparation for release. Page 231, buyer's creative checkpoints. Externally, the producer should be in constant communication with the buyer executive. A typical creative checkpoints for buyers executives are at the following stages: the script, the character and key location design, color-styled textured character and location design, story reel or animatic on per-sequence basis, pre-visualization reel, the voice talent selection, music composer selection, lyricist selection, vocalist selection, promotional material, credits, the final output. Page 232, ancillary groups. Producer works closely with ancillary groups including consumer product, marketing, that's input from the director and the producer needed, publicity, and promotions. Works with key executives creating strategies and campaigns to best sell the project. Vital to keep secure cross-platform, web-based production tracking system for ancillary groups for market research and test screenings. Often character designs and color treatment are driven in part by the needs of the consumer products. And the producer must bridge the gap between directors' objectives and the consumer product's commercial goals, art and commerce must peacefully coexist to ensure that ancillary group requests are addressed. Page 233, 234. Production process and procedures. Arrange in-depth reviews of projects' creative requirements with the available resources, time, and money. Create a list of all assets needed, specific complexities, and total count. This begins after completion of pre-visualization or animatic phase. Building of low-resolution proxies or stand-in objects of characters and environments. Once sequences are approved for production, the team analyzes each shot's content and collaborates on how to fulfill its artistic objectives. Then they determine how to best utilize the production resources to facilitate optimal shot production. Complexity analysis. Before entering production stream, a feature film sequence must undergo a rigorous evaluation to assess the exact requirements for each shot on a per-department basis. During this complexity analysis, a project's creative and physical challenges must be addressed and balanced. Typically, those responsible for this analysis are the associate producer, the production manager, and visual effects supervisor. They set budget parameters per sequence. All production leads should participate in order to gain a thorough understanding of creative needs and how to synchronize department efforts. They should discuss the director's intent and review available options to determine how best to use resources to achieve desired artistic goals. Page 235, a brain trust. These participants would include the director, the producer, the associate producer, the visual effects producer, the art director, production manager, all department leads, and various computer graphics supervisors and technical directors. The director pitches his vision of the entire sequence, shot by shot. Each shot is individually reviewed and rated per department and assigned a big, estimated level of difficulty and/or time or manpower. The following information pertaining to each shot includes required assets, director's notes, and departmental bids. Shots are analyzed for accurate tallies of characters, props, and locations. It's helpful in determining the following. Determine things like whether a location set must be built or will a simple matte painting suffice. Establishing budget and manpower, and regulating the pace of production. After the brain trust is completed, the editorial department issues the shots in order for production to get underway by doing the following. They generate timing information and soundtrack reads. The shot details are entered into production database for tracking purposes. The names of all artists and staff members involved in the shot, and log shots onto the tracking system. Here's Figure 9-1, Computer Graphic Production Pipeline. This is how the project runs through the shop, and you'll be able to find this in your book. On page 236, Computer Graphic Production. The following must occur before CG production begins. CG can begin production. One look development is determined, and main assets have been produced and tested, characters, locations, and props. Sequences have been approved through Previs. Page 236. Basic CG production steps. Layout and shot setup, animation, character finalizing, final layout set dressing, effects, matte painting, lighting, and composition. Page 237. Layout and shot setup. Timing, staging, composition, camera setups, and lighting. Following elements are placed into each shot. A rough model of the set, 360 degrees if possible. Low-resolution character placement with broad action and posture interactions. Low-resolution props. Character continuity and screen direction. Real-time depictions of character actions over background. Camera position, angle, movement, and lens choice. And preliminary effects and lighting. Page 237, Layout/shot setup, continued. Layout step paves smooth production path by solving potential problems from the beginning. Stage for identifying the reuse or sets of combinations of shots. This enables director to determine audience eye placement. It helps avoid rendering unnecessary artwork, allows placement and audition of preliminary visual effects. Preliminary lighting informs artist lighting conditions of characters, scenes, and so on. And stereoscopic factors are to be dealt with in this stage, if they're applicable. Page 163, you'll be identifying and selecting the subcontractor, consult with other studios and individuals, ask for recommendations, consult in credit of a production, review online sample reels, ask the studio to animate test shot or a demo, establish creative partnership with subcontractor, determine if the subcontractor studio can handle the quantity, determine if the software/hardware is compatible, assure compatibility of art/look/animation/quality of work, and be aware and sensitive to cultural sensitivities. For example, cultural interpretations of comedy timing and dramatic acting may vary from country to country. Page 238, Animation. During the animation handout, the director goes through the entire sequence with an animation supervisor, lead animator, or animator himself. He describes the intent and/or the performance requirements. Under the guidance of the animation team, the animator plans out and executes character actions, manipulates rigs to set poses and/or extremes in broad strokes in sequence, and after review by the director and approved for key animation and blocking, the shot is finally ready for rough animation. Page 238 through 240, Rough Animation. The animator fleshes out between poses. He adds facial expressions. He animates lip sync. The character movement is finessed and animates secondary animation. Page 240, Secondary Animation. You follow up motion to character actions, for example, stretching and squashing and so on. And then once animation is complete, it moves back into the sweatbox for analysis. Page 233 and 240, here we see the sweatbox sessions at Disney Studios. That's Walt Disney in the middle, looking at the film on what's called a moviola. It's an old device for running your film through. This is named after Disney Studios under the stairs where there was no air conditioning, hence the name sweatbox. These were moviola sessions. The moviola is a sort of an antique device where you would run the film through and see how everything moves. It's like a projector, but it's more for an individual to look at. This is where the animators screened and shared their initial pencil tests. It was comparable to viewing the rushes in live action. It was evaluated from both aesthetic and technical points of view. Once the revisions were completed, the animation is cut into the draft. Each time timings are altered, the draft timings must be revised to conform. Page 241, Character Finaling. Technical directors focus on adjustments required to hair, fur, cloth, and so on. Artistry is key to believability. The animation glitches are fixed by a character finaling technical director. He or she would be addressing issues like crashed geometry, inaccurate contact points, skinning issues, rigging issues, for example, the shoulder breaking through the clothing. And once the shot is approved and considered final, it is sent to editorial and made available for your final layout. Page 241, Crowd Animation. On projects with the need of many background populations, a crowd animation department may be established, more technical animation than performance animation. This adds production value to a project, and models should appear as though they're in the same world as the main characters. Page 241, Final Layout, Set Dressing. Stage where artists replaced low resolution with high resolution. Page 241, Final Layout / Set Dressing. This is a stage where artists replace low resolution with high resolution assets. It dresses the set to camera while complementing the animation. They manage scene panning needs, such as finalizing camera work. Next, a sweatbox session is called for the director to see how the scene works. Attendees will include the director, visual effects supervisor, art director, department supervisors. For example, is the scene overdressed and therefore distracting? Goal is to make sure the focus of the shot is clear. The final layout artist may need to do the following: adjust the camera, prop placement, maintain shot continuity to best support animation and story. And once all the director notes are addressed and implemented, the shot is sent to editorial and the effects department. Page 242, Effects. These people are responsible for designing and generating all non-character related animation, instrumental in establishing atmosphere and creating mood. An effects team can sometimes start in previs or even in layout, and it can work simultaneously with character animation if not interdependent. Responsible for prop animation, for example, moving vehicles, explosions, etc. They control motion and affect of natural elements like dust, mist, fog, and fire. They're responsible for particle renders. They do fluid dynamics and the volumetrics, for example, mist and smoke. They may be created by a wide variety of software systems and may become involved with stereo format executions. Once the shot is approved by the director, it is prepared for showing in another sweatbox session. Page 243, matte painting. This is utilized to fill environments more efficiently and inexpensively. A matte painting is basically painting textures on staged levels of cards. Modeled surfaces to give depth effect without having to build complex model geometry. They create overlays to blend with live-action plates, and special consideration may come into being with stereoscopic projects. Page 243, lighting and compositing or shot finaling. The last stop on the production pipeline. It does all of the following. Establishes the time of day. It enhances a sense of drama. It defines the final look for a shot, color, shadows, brightness, contrast, light source, and the direction of the light. Page 243, the lighting setup. Light positioning for animation is very similar to live action. Lighting is set up to illuminate the environment. Types of lights are spotlight, which is a single beam of light. 2, a point light, which produces an omnidirectional lighting, for example, a bare light bulb. Number 3, parallel light, which radiates equal amount of light in the same direction, for example, sunlight. Number 4, area light. This is used to create soft shadows, for example, fluorescent bulbs. And number 5, volumetric light. This is used to cast cones of light, for example, a light bulb in a lampshade. Page 243, lighting setup continued. Note, lighting in computer graphics offers greater flexibility in theatrical lighting options than lighting in a live-action set. You can omit shadows and lighting effects as a real advantage. Lighting fixture proximities are entirely flexible. Anything is possible. Lighting intensities are entirely flexible, so anything is possible. And one thing that's not mentioned here is the fact that the light itself, the light source itself, is invisible, so you can place lights between your camera and the subject and they won't be seen. The process of establishing lighting functions is initially informed by the color and lighting scripts and explored further during the previs pass and then the layout. After a sequence is approved, lighting keys are created using select shots and are approved by the director and the art director. The keys are used to propagate the rest of the shots. In some studios, these are referred to as parent shots and children shots. Page 244, rendering and compositing. This is the process through which all the digital work and its coding is translated into visual images. All elements like characters, effects, environments are lit and rendered in individual layers. Next, all layers are composited, creating a fully integrated, cohesive shot. Individual layers allow greater control over images. One layer at a time can be addressed, replaced, and so on. Shot lighting and colors can be adjusted in compositing. And once composited shots have been viewed and approved by the director, they are prepared for post-production. Figure 9-3 is a frame of computer graphics animation, low-resolution render of character animation, where you see these two butterfly creatures. Figure 9-4 is a frame of computer graphics effects. In this case, it's clouds and sky. Effects element is isolated. Now continuing to the same image, figure 9.5 is the frame of computer graphic lighting, showing high-resolution render of the character lighting. Now in figure 9.6, it's further evolved, where you see a frame of final composited CG image. And figure 9.7 is a frame of the final composited computer graphic image. Page 247 through 250. This is 2D production. It's different meaning to different people. Multiple animation techniques are dependent on a combination of software programs. You are reliant on digital technology to get through this. Page 248. Two main categories of 2D animation. Digital 2D. Characters and props are color styled. Texture after design is approved. Pieces are broken apart or cut apart. Pieces are symbolized and rigged. Pieces become assets for the library. And animated through a manipulation of pieces. For example, as you see in South Park, the head moves, the body moves, the arms are independent. They can be modified pending each project's specific artistic requirements and budget, and can be used in a lower budget as well as a higher budget. and they're primarily used for TV projects because TV projects budgets tend to be as generous as theatrical. Figure 9-8 is a digital 2D production pipeline. You can see that in your book. Traditional 2D animation. Now we'll look at the steps done in traditional 2D animation. The first is hand-drawn, where you can draw on paper or draw on a tablet. Then you lay out the animation. Then you clean up the animation. Then you add effects. And then you go to full animation if possible. It's optional. Sometimes it'll be limited animation. These tend to be higher budget feature applications. Figure 9-9 is a traditional 2D production pipeline, which you can look at in detail in your book. These two techniques are occasionally combined when mutually beneficial. These methods are often mixed and matched based on needs of the shot. Page 249 through 250, the key steps in traditional 2D and digital 2D productions. You work from a rough layout, then scene planning in traditional 2D only. The shot setup, again, digital 2D only. Animation, cleanup layout, traditional 2D only. Background painting, cleanup animation in traditional 2D only. Effects, animation check, traditional 2D only. Color styling, ink and paint with traditional 2D only. Compositing, and final check. Refer to figures 9-8, digital 2D, and 9-9 for traditional 2D for graphic representations of the production pipelines to be presented in this section. Page 251, the rough layout. The goal here is to stage the shot in the most effective way possible to facilitate storytelling. Every shot's camera is set up for the animator's performance. First in the animatic, the reason for the animatic is to break down the individual shots, assign numbers. These are planned out cinematically. Reuse options must be determined at this point, whether you're going to share backgrounds or characters or specific animation bits. Creation of a layout for a shot involves designing the location, indicating character poses, and the effects used. Allows layout artists to define how characters, props, and effects will interact with the background. The follow director's notes, layout supervisor, layout artist uses composition, angle, movement, light, and shadow to convey intent, mood of shot, and continuity issues and hookup issues must be addressed at this point. On traditional and digital 2D projects, storyboard panels may be meticulously planned out in order to bypass the layout phase. Page 252, scene planning. On traditional 2D feature productions, all major production steps have been completed for compositing and sweatbox, and every shot is sent back to scene planning. The scene planner then ascertains how all shot elements can be cohesively combined. The character's path of action and interaction with environment is digitally set up so it may be viewed in motion. With the layout artist, the scene planner works out all camera mechanics, composition, continuity, shot transitions, same-as shots, and screen directions for the sequence. Next, the layout supervisor views the updated animatic and signs off once the director approves the animatic. Again, the Brain Trust team is gathered for another shot review and a breakdown. Page 252, the shot setup. In 2D animation, there is a shot setup phase that must take place to prepare for the start of the animation. In this, a technical director imports all of the required elements, which include the character builds, the props, the effects assets, the low resolution of a painted background, model sheets, comparison size or scale charts, voice track, audio file, music and sound effects, the animatic file. The technical director may place a camera for the animator. He may decide where the camera goes. On page 253, layout turnover. Brain Trust is called to evaluate sequence complexity level shot by shot. Complexity analysis is made. On paper, traditional 2D projects, at this stage the shot is broken down into levels. There's the overlay level, OL. These complements sit on top of the animation. The underlay level is where they sit below the animation. And then there's the overlay underlay, OLUL. This is animation both above and below a given layer. And then finally, the background, the BG, is the setting for action. It's always the bottommost level. Every detail in every shot is assessed. The team explores options to simplify the shots. All details generated from meeting are entered into the production notes and incorporated into the tracking system, so anyone working on the shots can be fully aware of all the details. Page 253 to 254, animation. Both 2D traditional and 2D digital animation. Objective is to imbue the character with enough personality to appear spontaneous and alive. Traditional animators may prefer rough drawings, fully in-betweened, or clean line with a few in-betweens. Producers should facilitate their strengths to bring out the best performance skills. The director sets the vision for the overall project, and animators follow the director's guidance in chosen style of animation. In order to commence work, animators need the following: the rough layout, a voice track, exposure sheet, character design, and model sheets. Page 253 through 254, continuing with animation. Animators use animatic as a reference to understand creative goals as well as provide context for any preceding and following animation. By listening to voice track, animators try to emulate the emotions of the performance. Animators use track reading as guideline for the voice or sound or events. Animators make notes on how the drawing should be shot. For example, was it shot on ones or shot on twos? And if you don't know what that means, does it hold for one drawing or two drawings at a time? This is a way of lessening the amount of work. Instead of doing 30 drawings per second, you can get by with 15, and it's barely noticeable. After key poses for shots are approved, the animators can draw the in-betweens or have an in-betweener do it for them. Page 254, the animation supervisor. On large productions, animation supervisors or leads oversee a team of animators and in-betweeners. The supervisor may be responsible for animating a sequence or in charge of a main character. He develops the character's personality based on the director's instructions. They explore the character by drawing facial expressions and poses or postures. The animated character's movement through walk cycles. They break down character design into basic shapes to teach animators how the character is drawn. They may provide sculpted maquettes, as we've discussed in other chapters, for 3D reference. In digital 2D productions, animation stage is when the production picks up the pace. Much of the heavy lifting has already been accomplished. The main objective here is to utilize existing assets and focus on animating and movement. It generates key poses that capture the broad performance. The step is called blocking. Whenever you determine where you're placing your actor, you're blocking that actor. Once the director or animation supervisor approves the key poses, the animator fleshes out between key frames. Page 256, dialogue track or audio file. This plays a very crucial role. It's the last step in finishing the character animation phase. It's called lip sync. Lip sync is achieved by placing the correct mouth shape with the corresponding mouth sound. Once animators complete their shots and have their supervisor's approval, they present to the director in a dailies review session. Group sessions are very beneficial, sharing comments and observations. And after approval, animation is sent to cleanup layout. Sometimes once a character animator completes all the character animation, they may be moved over to start doing effects. Page 256, cleanup layout. This is a step when establishing how the levels are to be combined. A cleanup artist's primary task on 2D is to make sure rough animation can be integrated into the shot. A layout is adjusted to accommodate the number of animation drawings, and the lighting guide may be prepared at this stage. After cleanup layout is complete, the shot is passed to cleanup animation and background paint. Page 257, background painting. This step is common to both 2D traditional and digital 2D. Background painter is a combination lighting expert and a set painter. They apply color to give objects weight, dimension, and texture. They help create the mood and the atmosphere in the scene. They use visual reference such as keys to provide guidance for color treatment and lighting nuances. The background supervisor oversees work in progress and makes sure the director and the art director's objectives are met. Once the background is approved, it is sent to the animation check department in preparation for the ink and paint process, or sent to the compositing department. Page 258, cleanup animation. In traditional 2D animation, cleanup animation takes place after the in-betweens have been approved. This ensures the characters have been kept on model. They assure a consistent style of line work. The cleanup artists play a vital role in maintaining the performance of their characters. Attention to detail is crucial since they must keep continuity of the character, his clothing, hairstyle, number of buttons, and so on. The cleanup line is vital to believability by keeping the character consistent. Upon completion, the drawings are scanned and reviewed, then sent on to the director, and then on to animation check. Page 258 through 259. Effects. Effects artists are the magicians on the project. They create explosions, devise fire, smoke, rain, and so on. Both drawn and digital effects may be mixed. Contact shadows help anchor characters to sets. Page 259, Animation Check. Simply put, Animation Check is simply quality control. Once a shot is completed, all elements must be checked before proceeding to the next step. This is where you may find missing artwork or artwork problems. For example, bandage changes arms from one shot to the next. You also would study line quality here and color and texture for continuity. The goal is art should leave animation checking as close to perfection as possible. Page 260, Color Styling and Ink and Paint, or Color Modeling. This phase brings colors to characters, props, effects, and so on, under the guidance of the art director. Page 260, The Color Stylist. The goal here is to produce a color scheme that complements the animation and features makeup, hair, costume, and effects. It establishes indexed color palettes based on lighting scenarios. It selects colors for lighting effects, for example, wet versus dry. It selects colors for tones, rims, and contact shadows, and designs for contrast of characters against background colors. Page 261, Ink and Paint. Here we establish the color palettes from shot to shot. It requires careful attention to line consistency and demarcations. It's easier for TV projects since they can build video colors not requiring translation, and lighting nuances are taken into consideration. Once all color styling and ink and paint is approved, the shot is forwarded to compositing. Page 261, Compositing. This is applicable to both traditional 2D and digital 2D projects. Compositing is the process all artwork specifically is created for a shot, responsible for a significant portion of the look and atmospheric elements, simulating 3D cameras, adding parallax, depth cues, different layers of background, and offsetting a character against itself to create offset rim or offset tone. Once composited image is rendered, the director has final look and may order revisions. The revised composite is handed off to the final check or post-production. Page 262, Final Check. The final quality control review, usually by the compositor. The final checker specifically concentrates on all details such as color or registration. Each frame is checked individually, and once approved, the shot is delivered for final output in preparation for post-production. And there you have Producing Animation Chapter 9, Production.